is that their agreement, that they're all pointing in the same direction, doesn't matter for anything. You cannot assume, as Freud plainly did, that the fact that biology and sociology and anthropology all agreed on what the problems were and on what the likely answers were, you cannot assume that that means they're all right. Under these circumstances, agreements of among the sciences could not be credited to their correct but independent depictions of a common reality. They all agreed not because they were all giving you pictures of the same reality. They all agreed because they were all being led by the same intellectual force. Understandably, Freud did not appreciate this point. A devout evolutionist and system builder, when he looked for ways of integrating the disciplines, and when he found them, he did not he didn't recognize their common ancestry or question their source, but rather took the agreement among the disciplines as evidence that a unified theory of the mental was possible along basic evolutionary lines. Now, the quick moral here for cognitive science is that as the predominance of evolutionary explanations led Freud to believe that the time was ripe to integrate the different disciplines, so the proliferation of computational approaches. This is exactly what is driving cognitive science today. It's that all of these disciplines agree on computational approaches. It is that which has led to the contemporary ideal of a unified cognitive science. Let me just skip here the story of the rise of computationalism. You had very important formal results in the 30s with Turing and Church. Then you actually built computers, and everyone could see that computers could solve incredibly difficult problems at great speed. What happened historically is that various disciplines then went over to a computational approach. First, psychology in the early 60s became computationalist. Then various other disciplines followed the same route. 30 years later, now, the proliferation of computational approaches in the mental sciences is as obvious as your nearest university catalog. I didn't look at Iowa State's catalog, but I'll tell you about UCSD's catalog. We offer courses in computational psychology, computational anthropology, computational linguistics, and computational neuroscience. I'm not making this up. I've taken this right out of the catalog. Now look, the parallel with psychoanalysis is obvious and painful. Freud was confident that a complete interdisciplinary theory of mind was within his grasp because he was fooled by this sort of spurious agreement of evidence produced by evolutionary historicism. All the sciences are agreeing, but they're not agreeing because they're all looking at the same reality. They're all agreeing because, roughly, they're all drinking at the same bars. Right? They're all agreeing on Darwinian evolutionary theories. And the problem is that's just what we're doing today. All right? That we all have the same intellectual heritage, and we all do drink at the same bars. All right? And so the worry is that contemporary cognitive science, all of us in the cognitive science community, are making exactly the same mistake. For the agreement in results and the agreement in approach is not a matter of independent sciences converging on a common reality, but of all of them sharing a common belief in computationalism. Even when you get fights within the cognitive science community, they're all basically assuming computationalism. Now, the danger in misreading a zeitgeist for an agreement among the sciences is not just an unseemly overconfidence that you now think, aha, we're ready. It's a lot worse than that. A dominant zeitgeist encourages an interdisciplinary approach because when there is substantial agreement among the disciplines about the important questions to ask and the range of acceptable answers, namely get a computational theory or get an origins type theory, then collaboration appears more fruitful. However, so once you've got a zeitgeist going like this, then it looks like we should all work together because we're all, after all, working in the same direction. However, an interdisciplinary approach also lends to a greater commonality of beliefs and attitudes. We all work together, then we all, of course, come to share these beliefs all the more. Thus, the adoption of an interdisciplinary research strategy increases the strength of a zeitgeist, and which then furthers interdisciplinary integration and so forth. Okay? The danger in adopting an interdisciplinary research strategy then, when you've got this tremendous commonality of view, when everybody already believes that computationalism is the way to go, is that you sacrifice important mechanisms for change. As work in related but independent disciplines can offer important confirmation, work in related but independent disciplines can also cast doubts on existing theories and offer hints about new approaches. The great danger in utilizing an interdisciplinary research strategy in the presence of a dominant zeitgeist is theoretical stagnation. Everybody's going to be doing exactly the same thing, and you've cut off all your sources of divergent views. Or, if I can sort of put this in a way that computationalists might find more appealing, because I'll put it in their language, given a dominant zeitgeist, an interdisciplinary approach runs the risk of forcing research into a local minimum, if you're familiar with this, that you can't climb out of because you haven't got any sources of energy. All right, let me just briefly conclude. Look, given the negative tone of this paper, where I've been pointing out all the problems in interdisciplinary research, let me just conclude by saying that I believe in interdisciplinary research. I think that it is a fruitful way to approach these very, very complicated problems of understanding the mind. What I've tried to do, both here and in the book I just wrote on Freud, is use Freud as an example so that we can sort of see the mistakes that an interdisciplinary research program gets into. The point is not to avoid interdisciplinary research, but to do it better. And that's what I want to use Freud for, to try to look at the mistakes he made. Things like getting very excited about the agreement and the disciplines, to think that, just tomorrow we're going to get this right, that's not true. There was another error I also skipped. I'm going to try to explain that. And also this very dangerous thing of just saying, well, everything's really going on fine in the other disciplines and they'll get it all worked out right, so I'm not going to worry about that. I think the point of looking at Freud is not to discourage interdisciplinary research, but to try to do it in such a way that 80 years from now or 100 years from now, people don't look back at interdisciplinary cognitive science and use that as the paradigm of a bad science or pseudoscience, as Freud is used today. Okay, let me end there.